Hey, ladies, welcome to Truth Be Told, a podcast for women, by women that dispels myths, brings up voices that are silent to life, refuels the emptiness so we are not only heard, but we are impactful. I am Michelle Lorraine, your host of Truth Be Told. Last week, I decided not to host the show in solidarity that Black Lives Matter. I feel the unity of our community and I stand proud, I stand strong, I stand black, and I stand loud. I am black, and Black Lives Matter. Thank you for joining us this evening on Truth Be Told, our fourth episode. Yes, we have a great night for you, and we are so glad that we are able to bring back three of our guests from our first three episodes to talk about relationships. So I am really excited to have these ladies, and I hope you are too. So let's begin. Let's jump into it. And as always, feel free to comment, like, or share as we go along. And thank you for contributing. So let's go. Help me welcome our amazing guests tonight. We have Hyacinth Brown, which was from episode 1 about identifying true friends. Then we have Elever Baker, who was on our episode 2 talking about can parents and children be friends. And then we have Pastor Suzette Gayle from Florida, who was on our episode 3 talking about leadership. Hey, ladies.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how are you?
Great. I'm so glad that you guys were willing to come back and join me on Truth Be Told. And I know we have a lot to talk about. We have had comments from people who have viewed the show, some people who have called me personally and had shared their thoughts and opinions on what we've discussed in our previous episodes. And it's just been amazing, a little bit overwhelming at times, just to hear how people have been impacted in relationships. Relationships are so key to everything, so we want to be able to have that dialogue, to share our experiences, and to help each other understand the importance of relationships. So we're going to start off with true friendship. Now, we had talked about true friendship. That was with you, Hyacinth, right?
Yes.
Yes. Do you remember that dialogue? We had Carrie Ann Roden on? Yes. Okay. And I had some feedback on that show that, are we being completely transparent about friendship? Like, are we really having good relationships, or are we having some bad? So we had a viewer's question. So any of you could answer this. One of the viewers contacted me and said they want to know about identifying toxic friendships. Toxic friendships. Now, they're talking about relationships that they had from when they were youth, like young, and how it's impacted them today. So what are your thoughts on toxic relationships?
Well, if I may say this, I said that was your discussion a couple weeks ago, but toxic relationship, oh my God. You got to know who you are, and you got to know who people are and know how to operate around them, because everybody is different. But in terms of a toxic relationship, toxic people bring a lot of drama to the relationship. And to be able to identify them, these are the folk who brings a lot of drama. Everything is always about them. They constantly try to put you down, speak to you condescendingly. If your hair looks good, they'll say, oh my God, I would do it this way. If I were you, I would not do it that way. Maybe you should think about doing it. They never really offer a compliment. A competition. Think about competition. In a toxic relationship, when a relationship is toxic, when your friend is constantly trying to compete with you, amen, or they're secretly trying to copy what you're doing. Listen, it takes up too much energy to be a cheap carbon copy when you can just be an original.
Oh, wow.
So
Be original. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's,
Okay.
and they cross the boundary a lot of times, and you have to set that precedent and say, no, listen, you've gone too far. Don't be afraid to address them.
Wow.
Jealousy is very important. The Bible says jealousy is worse than witchcraft. Amen. So you got to watch in a relationship when the person demonstrates the spirit of jealousy, then you know you're entering in or you are involved in a toxic relationship.
Right. Wow. Lever, what do you say on that?
Well, I was going to say not only drama, but they often bring trauma to your relationship
Wow.
because sometimes when
Uh-huh.
they leave or while they're in it, it's a lot of pain and anguish, and
Mm,
it can be very unhealthy
yeah.
mentally on the individual. I agree with Suzette around the competition or you can often the lack of authenticity in
Mm-hmm.
who they are can often be toxic too. But sometimes we are drawn to toxic relationships because of certain things that
Mm,
we are dealing with or have dealt with, and we're not in a position to let go.
wow.
So those pieces are also can be of concern for us as individuals. So when we are connecting with individuals or we're coming up with friendships, etc., we have to ensure that we're in a healthy place and
Mm,
we're not actually drawing those kind of people to us, because we're like magnets, right?
yeah.
So we don't want to connect with that person, we don't want to draw the wrong kind of person in. And if over the course of time you find that the relationship changes,
Mm,
making it toxic, are we strong enough to walk away?
wow. That's a
Right.
good point. Are we
That's
strong
very good.
enough
I
to
like that.
walk away? Hyacinth. I mean, this was your baby on episode one. So, what do you have to say?
Well, first of all, I have to say thank you so much for having me back. It's good to be with
No
these
problem.
wonderful ladies one more time.
Yes, thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Anyhow, toxic relationships, the word that pops out heavily to me, what I'm hearing is toxic. And when I hear the word toxic, I think death. It's
Mm,
like
wow.
I'm thinking it can do nothing but destroy you.
Yeah.
It is abusive. And sometimes people only equate abuse relationships with it being, your husband or, a significant other. But in friendship, this also can occur. And when it's toxic, you know that it's really one way.
Mm, yeah.
It's usually
True.
one way relationship. And it's their way, it's death. You know that it's not life. It doesn't bring life. It doesn't bring positivity. There's nothing clean or clear or positive at the end. It's all death. Toxic. Not
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah. It's so
Healthy.
true. I'm going to talk about an experience I had as a child, and it's something that did impact me for many years of my life. And I remember when I was maybe in grade maybe 3 or 4, maybe grade 4, and I remember there were girls that I wanted to be friends with because they were the popular girls. They were, everybody talks to them and things like that. And I remember doing a movie during class. She cut my hair. Like during the movie, Over the years, she was always like that bully type person, but at the same time, you wanted to be their friends because they were popular. Later on in life, I found that I didn't trust people to be friends because I felt like they had a certain feeling towards me. Would that be considered a toxic relationship? Or was that not even a relationship that I was really in, that I was trying to get into, during that time? Okay, go ahead, Oliver.
Well, I don't know if we were friends. I think it was a hope to connect with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
but for whatever reason, that person didn't have your best interests at heart. So
Mm-hmm.
that led to some trauma, which then, as you grew older, possibly affected, I'm not a psychologist by any means, but possibly affected future connections, right? Because now it's like, if I reach out to somebody, because friendships are gained by two people mutually reaching out. It should never be one sided. I want to be friends with Hyacinth, so I'm always reaching out to her, but she never
Mm.
reaches back. That's not, girl, you know you want to be my friend. But, it's got to be reciprocal, right? And if
Yes.
it's not that piece, so sometimes when we're older and people might want to reach out to you, but because you've experienced that negative piece,
Mm-hmm.
have your wall up in your guard, and that's as a result of a toxic relationship. Relationships, again, aren't necessarily two-sided.
Yeah.
It's an attempt to build something,
Yeah.
and then what happens when it doesn't work out.
Yeah, and crazy enough, later on in life, when I became an adult, she did show up and try to, she became a friend, a distant friend, but nevertheless, things had changed when we got older. So sometimes people have toxic relationship when they're younger, but how does it change when we become older? The impacts of it, right?
Right. Truth be told, did she apologize?
You know what? She didn't. She did not apologize. Thank God my hair grew back, but I forgave her and I moved on. But it did affect me at times, especially when it came to other female friends, because you felt like they were judging you, by whether you have hair or complexion or, just different things like that. People judge you, and then you have that toxic relationship based off of scenarios like that.
Absolutely.
So,
and if I
go
might
ahead.
add, Michelle, sometimes when you experience these things earlier in your age, sometimes that becomes what you know and what you think might be correct, or you haven't seen any other relationship, and so sometimes it triggers through other areas of your life or other relationships. It becomes similar.
Yeah.
So thank God that you got through it.
Yeah.
That's a very valid point. Sorry,
one of the things we have to also bear in mind is that most toxic friendship can really hurt. It hurts. And we have to remember that sometimes people say or do things without thinking, and perhaps they grew up in a home or a household, an environment that they were taught misinformed information. And as a youngster, usually that displays, you will see it. So they don't know anything about a situation, and they become, and when they start doing certain things, then it's like, what are you doing? And you dress back, because what they're doing is not, it's invading in your space, and it hurts, but they might not know any better.
Right.
So it all goes back to their upbringing as well, and what they were taught or exposed to in their home.
Yeah.
Okay?
Learned and unlearned behavior is what we're often dealing with.
Yeah, and so you need to identify toxic relationships, because it does affect you psychologically. It does. You got the bully type of person, you got the user, you've got the ones that lie on you, the one that, like Suzette mentioned, that are jealous. So it's important to know that, because they portray that type of spirit on you as well. And then when you are dealing with other people, it impacts how you respond. So we need to identify toxic relationships. It's very important. Very important. So how many times should you forgive your friend when they've hurt you? Come on. How many times?
Like the Bible.
Well, the Word of God says 70 times 7, and basically, without even doing the math, that means without stopping.
Oh my gosh! I know. Are we sure that 70 times 7 was the same kind of mathematic calculation back then as it is today? I just want to know.
No, math is changing. Math is changing, so we don't know. It's a very good point. Ask the government. Math is changing.
Yeah. So,
but I think it's the idea of just what Jesus did for us. That endless amount of love that he has for us, that even though we sin, his grace is sufficient, his blood washes us, he forgives us. So we trying to be like him and having his character, the fruit of the Spirit, we are to do the same. We are to work on that and to forgive. Painful as it is, and remember, forgiveness, when we ask someone to forgive, if they say no, that's on them. Right. Because it's really it's what we're doing for us. We are starting clean, we're letting it go, we're showing remorse, we're giving that spirit of love back to the person. They don't want to accept it. I've done what I'm supposed to do, and as long as it's done with a good heart, not if I have done you something wrong, forgive me. Not that kind.
Not that kind. Right. Okay.
Not that kind.
Yep. We have a comment or a question from Facebook.
Yep. So the first one says, and it's from Rachel. She says, sometimes changing the dynamic of the relationship is what is needed.
Okay, so you got that. Changing the dynamic of the relationship is what is needed. That is 100% true. And another one, sorry, go ahead.
She says we can still love and do it from a distance in some cases. Forgiveness does not mean allowing abusive behavior to continue.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Rachel. That is 100% true. We don't have to stay in the toxic relationship. Come on. We don't have to. We could step back, step out. We don't have to take it. Exactly. So here's another question now in regards to friends that call you out on things, publicly. Now, do you think they are being a friend? Are they trying to help you? Are they trying to destroy you? What's your perspective on that?
I'm going to give that one to Suzette. Go ahead, because I'm still working for that.
Or Hyacinth. Hyacinth looks like it's on the tip of her tongue. Go ahead, Hyacinth. And then we'll hear from Suzette. Yeah? Those people who call you out?
I believe there are factors to that. Because if something was done in public, I believe it should be cleaned up publicly. However, how you do it is important. It has to be spoken in love. If someone's calling me out, because sometimes you could do more damage than good. Like, let me throw this question down. Like, even though you may know the truth about someone, is this really the place to tell it?
Wow.
Is this the place to say it? Yeah, you may know it, and it may be absolutely right, but you could be actually doing more damage. So motive, your motive is such a key part of someone calling me out. Right. I'll have to pray about it hard.
I think love is the big thing for me. If I love you as my friend, genuinely love you, there's a time and a place for me to call you out. Not that I think sometimes in public could be, but it's again how it's done. But like if you're stopping me from going off on somebody and you pull me out and you're like, Elever, now is not the time. Yeah. You really don't want to wait until after I've done the wrong thing to do that.
Right. Okay.
Right? And so love, I think, it will determine our motive, right? It will determine the time and the place. If I really care about Suzette, right, and her well-being and her soul and our relationship, the time and the place, I think, is key. Wow. What's that circumstance? Right. Am I pulling her from the edge because she's about to say and do something which down the road could be really detrimental? And she could very well turn back and say, but Elever, you're my friend. Why didn't you stop me?
True. And Suzette, what do you think? And then we're going to go to Facebook Live.
Both Hyacinth and Elever are absolutely right. I strongly believe that wisdom is the principal thing, and in all you're getting, you've got to get an understanding. But if, for example, at 5 a.m. in the morning, everybody has bad breath. So if your breath is bad and you want to tell me that my breath is bad, that's fine. I'll go get me some Listerine, some soap, some Colgate, my toothbrush, and I'll clean my mouth. But if you're going to talk it out in the open, in the public, and say, girl, your mouth stinks, then something is wrong with that picture. So, it all
No, that's just hate.
And discernment of spirit is vitally important, because a person who does that, when you really discern their spirit, they're technically lacking something in their lives, and what they're doing, they're seeking attention. Because if they truly love you, I want you to tell me that I have a mole in my eyes. I want you to tell me that my dress is torn. I want you to tell me that my mouth needs freshening up, or whatever the situation, my hair needs to be done. I would rather you tell me that so I don't go in the public and shame myself. But when you take me in the public and expose me and put me out there and embarrass me in front of everybody, it's shame on you, not shame on me. Something is wrong with you. Something is wrong with this friendship, and we've got to check ourselves.
Wow.
So the discernment of spirit is good, because usually when they do that, they themselves are lacking something in their lives and they're seeking attention, but they're going about doing it the wrong way.
Okay. All right. We have a comment from Facebook. Go ahead.
So Joy says, some people have no sense.
Oh gosh.
Rachel said, feedback from friends is valuable. How you do it and where you do it and the intention is important or grabs the heart. She also says relationships principles of Jesus is discuss this doing it in love and appropriately timed. Sister Sonia says that when people do it in public, it will destroy you.
Right. So the intent behind it, or if you want someone to live, are you going to publicly embarrass them because you have the intent for them to live or to die? I think somebody mentioned about toxic relationships is whether you're going to let them live or die. What is the intent, right? Elever, I think you wanted to put in a quick comment.
Hyacinth.
Oh, Hyacinth. There you go.
Sorry.
Yeah, what came to me as well is if this individual is just going to blast you up openly, they have got to at least give you compliments openly as well.
Wow.
They cannot be the ones that are always, what's up with you, what's wrong with you? But it's going to be, be able to say something positive at the same time as well. That's to me it's important. You can't just blast me and never say anything good about me ever.
Wow. Wow. And it's funny.
That's valid.
Yeah, exactly. It is valid. Sorry about that, Elever. So the next question from a viewer came was regarding mental health, because now it kind of segues into this kind of question. If you publicly embarrass someone and you don't know that they're dealing with some mental health situation, you can cause that person to be on a setback. So how do we deal with people and understanding that we are in a life that people are dealing with mental health issues? What are your thoughts on that? I know it's a hard one.
Okay, so here's a question. If you're my friend, would you not know?
That is the
And
question.
I'm throwing that out. Because not a toxic relationship, like a real friendship.
Yes.
If you're my friend, I would want to believe that you shared something with that person so that they know. And so with that, now again, remember, we defined friends before, but if you're my friend, then you know. And so there's that care piece, that love, that wisdom, that understanding, that feeling for me as your friend, that you would be mindful of what you say, where we say it. Because sometimes you can call somebody out in private and really damage them too. Because you think nobody's watching and nobody's listening.
That's true.
But that person has absorbed everything that you've said and it's ripped them apart.
Yes.
And so I think it's what we say. It shouldn't even matter where we're saying. It's what we say and how we say what we're saying. But I think if you're my friend, you should know, or you may know, that I'm dealing with something related to mental health, whatever it is.
Okay.
I don't want to put a label on it.
Well, the reality is, Elever, is that sometimes you have people who are publicly, they portray to be successful. They are a public success. You look at them, it's like they got it together. Oh, they're doing well. They speak well. They perform well. They dress well. They walk well. Everything. They come, they shake your hands. They greet you. All of that stuff. But on the other hand, they suffer privately. So this is where the spirit of discernment comes in. So if this person is your friend, somewhere along the line, you should be able to pick up something about that individual. They suffer privately, but they're public success. And this is where the mental disorder comes in, because they're living in two different worlds. And there will come a time when the two worlds will collide and they will explode. So he goes, oh, what happened to this individual? I thought they were like this, but my goodness, what is taking place? That's because the private suffering caught up with their public life, their public success. And I know a lot of people, amen, they go out there and even preachers who are on the pulpit, but then they have issues behind the scenes. Right. And that's what the public doesn't see. They see the public presentation, they see the success, but they don't know the warfare that they go on behind, whether it's mentally, emotionally, financially, relationally, however it is. So you have to get to a place of maturity where you can understand and know how to discern this, because everybody is a spirited being. And you have to know what spirit each person operates in, so you know how to deal with them.
Okay. All right, Hyacinth, go ahead.
Yes, my take on this is I believe that there's a distinction between mental health and mental illness. I believe that we all have to maintain our mental health. So that means that we all have moments where we have to be able to make sure that we adjust, make sure we're taking care of ourselves so that when we see that we're going off this way. I mean, I think that's very different than a mental illness. So I think there needs to be clarity if the person has an illness, or is it just your disposition? Because we all need mental health. Because there's moments that you have to take a break. There's moments that if you don't, you will go in the illness. So I think it's very important that we distinguish between the mental health that everybody needs it. It's part of us.
Right. So I'm excited that you said that.
Illness.
Yeah, I'm excited that you said that because next week we will be touching on that aspect. So we'll dive into that more next week. So thank you for that.
Great
So,
plug.
yeah,
Truth
great
be
plug.
told.
Truth be
Great
told.
plug.
Excellent. So the next part I want to talk about is the parent and children relationship. Can we be friends with our children? And that was a great show. We had Elever and her mother, and we also had my mother and my daughter Cheyenne and Jalen in the background. So we had that real dialogue about it. So now we had a viewer made a statement. They wanted clarity if parents and children can be friends. I personally, and it all depends on everybody, it depends on your relationship with your child, I think that you can be friends. That's my take. I feel like you can be. I also think that it can be done at certain times. There is a start period and there are still boundaries. So I want to hear from you, ladies. What do you think? Elever, I kind of know what you thought because you expressed it. So let's skip you and let's hear from Hyacinth and Suzette. Can you be friends with your children? Wow, they're both afraid to talk.
Well, I'll put it this way with my children and I are extremely close. We spend a lot of time together. Like I said before, is that I raise my kids, and I said, listen, I'm your mama. I want you to come to me with everything. Don't be afraid to talk to me. Let me know everything. One thing I don't appreciate is if you lie to me, because if I find out that you're lying, we're gonna have some problems. Mm-hmm. So they understand that I am the mother, I'm the parent, and they are the child, and they still have to render respect. They still have to honor my words, my rules, my guidelines, my wishes. But at the same time, I want my kids feeling comfortable around me so they can walk up to me and talk to me about any and everything that is going on in their lives. So it really is contingent upon how you define that friendship, because you don't want to lower your standard and to be that type of friend with your child so your child loses respect for you. Sure. But you always want to maintain that level of respect so they still revere and honor you as the adult and as the parent, but at the same time they love you enough as a friend so that they're always there for you and they can speak candidly with you.
Okay. All right. Hyacinth.
Well, my turn. I have a different take on this. So, I understand where Elever and Suzette is coming from, but this is just me. This is no. I'm no psychologist. My disclaimer's out there. But for me, I don't really attach my child as a friend. And I'm going to give you an example. If I'm with someone, and one of my children is with me, I don't say, "Oh, hi, sister so and so. This is my friend." I say, "Hi, this is my daughter, my son, so and so." That's just the first aspect of it. And I also feel like as mentioned before, friends have borders, but with your children, often there are no borders. There's things that go beyond. So I feel like there's almost a limitation personally when it's said, oh, my child was my friend. I'm going, my child is my child. And we all have children. And we know we would probably do more for our children than we would for a friend.
Yeah. Well,
so that's sort of the take that I have, the spin that I have on it, that I don't consider my child my friend. Although we do have overlapping characteristics that you may have with a friend. So that's just my little...
Yeah, and you know what? I would never introduce my kids as my friend. Like, I would never say, hey, this is Cheyenne, my friend, or this is Jalen, my friend. I wouldn't do that. Go ahead, Elever.
Okay, so I'm hearing both ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I, like Michelle, share the idea that my child can be my friend. Not yet.
Not yet.
My children are only 11 right now. Okay, we're not friends now. We are building that bond that Suzette talks about, where I want my children to feel absolutely comfortable with me, to have those conversations. And like Hyacinth, I will do anything for my children. It goes over and above. But because I'm of the sandwich generation, where my mom is still alive and I'm a parent, the relationship I have with my mom is where we're friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so I speak to that point, which is really interesting. Shout out to Sister Jasmine Baker, who's not with us right now. Shout out to my mom. Right? It was actually interesting. It's my mom who first called me her friend. Mm. And I was like, really? Like,
did you cry? Did you cry? Did you go like, oh my gosh,
I did
Mom?
not cry, Michelle. I did not cry.
I was just checking.
But it took me back, because when I think about the connection that friends have, and for a mother to look at her daughter and say, this is my friend, there are pieces of her that she has shared because we are friends.
Okay.
She's opened herself in particular ways to me because we are friends. I can go to the bank for her and do all of her stuff because we're friends. There's that trust. I'm being honest, in our relationship.
Yeah.
It's grown. Now, keep in mind, when I was 16, 18, 20, we were not friends.
Nope.
My mom was very clear. You are my child, and these are the boundaries, and this is the rule, okay? And you're going to walk the line. But because of the respect, maintaining boundaries that over these years, I won't tell my age, but, you could put it in the chat what you think. Because, Michelle, don't even, because you know I'll let you out, right? But because of the time and the relationship we had, we've moved into that friendship realm. Okay. So I only think it's possible, I think, because I experienced it with my mom.
Okay, well,
that's the only reason why I feel it's possible.
Okay, awesome. So we have a comment or question from Facebook.
Yeah. So Rachel says, absolutely, with boundaries and expressed inferred boundaries. She said her and her 26-year-old are great friends. Jalen says, as your daughter, I would say that we can have a friendship, especially when comparing the way other peers interact with their parents. Obviously, there are restrictions and limits. You are still my mother. I still have to respect you and your rules, but we also have a relationship outside of the mother-daughter role. And Cheyenne, me, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think especially at different stages and ages, you develop a relationship. So now being married, I see my mom more as a friend, and still as a mother, but as a friend, because there's certain things I can now talk to her about, or we can relate on certain levels that we couldn't before.
Yeah. Exactly. So to me, again, friendship with your children, for me, I think it's important that you develop some type of friendship, because when we define friendship, it's someone that you can trust, someone you can talk to, someone you can share what you're going through. Again, at a younger age, like what you mentioned, Elever, that's not possible. But when they get to a certain age, for me, when they hit the teenage years, I had to talk about sex. I talked about relationship. I talked about drugs. I talked about alcohol. I talked about everything that I could with them. And I talked to them that they felt like, Wow, you're cool. I know I am. But I just wanted to make sure that they were able to talk to me about it instead of going to their friends who are not invested in their life like I'm invested. Because remember, friends can be here today and gone tomorrow, but I'm always going to be their mother. And I have that invested interest. And toxic, exactly. So it's very important to for me to make sure that they feel that they can talk to me, most importantly, than anything else. So
I think we'll always have that parent-child relationship. The question is, can you move? Will you, as a parent, make that decision to move to the next level? And if you don't, that's on you. That's your choice. You still have that bond that's very impenetrable with your children. For me, as I said, I hope to be my children's friend. I really do, especially my son. He's so amazing. And, oh, my daughter's great too. She's fantastic. 50 years later, she watches and goes, "Mom."
So we have another comment from Facebook.
Rachel says, I believe many of my friendships have some sort of borders. Some friends are great at X and some are great at Y. As children become adults, their autonomy is important. And Nasishe says, I believe I have camaraderie with my children.
Okay, awesome. So that is so important because you want, I said it on the show in episode 2 with the parent. I want to make sure I'm friends with my kids so when I get old, they're not pinching me. I want to make sure that, and leaving me in the nursing home. I need to make sure I'm their friend. Cheyenne and Jalen, shout out to you guys. I love you. You're my best friend. No. You know what I mean?
Here's a Christian in the future when you watch this, know that I love you so much.
But do you understand what I'm saying? Suzette, oh, and Hyacinth, like, what do you think now from the conversation? But your kids are grown. Your kids are grown.
I keep telling them they're not grown. They're growing up.
Suzette, what can you share the age of your children, Suzette?
Yes, my children are 17 and 14.
Oh, they're growing.
Yeah, they're growing. Yeah, yeah.
And these kids are very well informed. Remember, they're in school. And the generation today is a lot different from when we were coming along. They're a lot wiser. They know more. And so I want my kids. My son is a handsome young man, and my daughter, she's shapely. I shouldn't be saying social media, but she's a good child for her. All the girls, they're over my son. They all want to get with my son. So he'll come and he'll roll up in the bed with me and say, "Mommy, can I talk to you? Mommy, can I say this to you?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Well, show me her. Let me see what she looks like. What do you know about her?" And things like that. So I want to be there for my son because I want for my children because I want to be able to instruct them, set them on the right.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly.
Don't leave that up to the school system.
Yep.
That is my responsibility. They're my children. So I want to know exactly what's going on with them in the school, while they're at school, while they're away from home, when they're with their friends. I want to know everything. I said, talk to me. Come and talk to me. And they do. They open up and they talk to me, and I appreciate that because when God forbid something happens and they get themselves in trouble, I can't be at their rescue if I don't know the truth about what's going on.
Right, exactly.
So, yes, they are close with me. I'm very close with them, but like I think it was Michelle or somebody said with borders, they have to realize that I'm not your age, I'm not your size. I am your mother, I'm your parent, and that respect and that reverence has to be there. Because you know what? When they mess up, not because they're 17 and 14, I still discipline them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're growing.
Exactly.
And I hear that. Catch an attitude, but hey, that's what we do.
Yeah. Yep. So we have our time is running out. We're at 6:39, and I usually pride myself in ending right on time, but we still have another topic that I think is so important. So ladies, are you okay going for a few minutes over time? Let me know.
I'm fine.
You're fine? Okay, good. So just a few minutes. So one of the things I wanted to mention still on this part of the conversation, and we don't have to stay on it long, but would you share your childhood experiences, your bad experiences when you were doing so right, to say, hey, well, I know what you were going through because I did XYZ? Or do you keep that a secret and not tell them?
Time and place and age is important on what I will share. Time, place, and age. As I said, my children are 11. Like, there's so many things they will just never know right now. But that's not to say as they get older, and their maturity level also is a big piece. I have to say my parents were very open, and they spoke to us appropriately about their experiences. So I think that's helped to build this foundation of friendship, especially with even my father was like, yeah, I want to know who your friends are, bring them home. So, like, they were very open about certain things. They had relationships as young people, unbelievably, they did. They talked about dating and all those kind of things. So it opened the door to have those conversations. So it was time and place and maturity for me. And that's how I will govern my children. And I do want a lot of their first experiences to be with me as their parent. There were some things my parents said, you don't need to try those things outside. If you want to do it, we'll do it in here. And we'll do it under my guidance. No, but I didn't tell you what it is.
Yeah.
But my point is, they were open to have those, because they like, okay, you're a teenager, there's peer pressure. You don't need to get excited because your friends are doing it. And it was always something I said, yeah, I don't need to do that. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, my parents are like, if I want to do that, I can just try that at home.
Right, yeah.
Under their guidance. And they're, just like you said, Suzette, you want to be there. So my parents know what I wouldn't do and, what I would do. Because there were things that I didn't have to sneak around and do stuff, because family was open to those conversations. So time and place and age is, maturity is important.
Right. And Hyacinth, what's your take on that?
I agree with Elever, but there are certain things that I would teach them from literally the beginning, just because of what I had experienced growing up. So there may be certain aspects of life growing up that I would say you can't, pick your friends right or do this as they're moving. But I would definitely agree about the timing. All the things that you had mentioned, Elever, I think it's absolutely right. And I also would agree that, and my kids know it, I'm like, I already made the mistakes.
You don't need to.
So you don't need to make it. I will take the burden. I'll take the grunt. I've made the mistakes. Look what I had to deal with, and I won't hide it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying
that's important.
I made it, so you're going this way. With a little bit of guidance.
Yes.
They are my friend.
Yeah, and the thing about it, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you know that you've been through something and you can share it with your kids and make sure that they don't go that direction, then it's important to tell them, as opposed to letting them walk, ignorantly towards it. So we have another comment from Facebook, or question.
Yeah, comment from Carmel Priestley. She says, yes, being open with your children when they become adults is good, like to explain it to them, but kids are too young.
Okay, exactly. So as to Elever's point, you don't want to tell them certain things at a certain age, but making sure that they're mature enough. I want to say hi to Rachel and Nisishe and Carmel. Thank you guys for chiming in. I appreciate it. Okay. So the last part... Oh, yeah, go ahead, of course.
I think it's also important not to wait too long, because if a child gets too old, it's like they've already developed their certain ways, and you may be too late. They say bend the tree when it's young.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful that we don't hold out too long.
Yeah.
Because it can be counterproductive.
Right.
And keeping in mind what Suzette said, this generation knows more earlier than we did.
Oh, wow.
So some of the
Trust me.
Okay, my 11-year-old, some of the conversations I've already had with Christian are like, seriously?
Yeah.
But I was shocked. Like, literally, I was shocked that they're already thinking about certain things and, wanting to navigate certain things. And he did a Google thing, which was scary for me, because no, I want to be your Google, right?
Yeah.
So I've opened that door now that, come Google mom first
Yeah.
and see what my answers are, and let's work it through. But I agree 100. We can't wait too long. Not this generation.
Yeah,
They
especially
wanna know
because
things.
everything is out there now.
The Bible says, train up a child in the way it should go, for when they're old, they will not depart from it. And it's vitally important that we instill certain things in our children from their youth. You got to teach them that when you go to school and if someone touches you inappropriately, it's not right. Of course, this generation is going to ask you questions. They're going to want you to show you what does that mean. They want you to explain everything. So there comes a time when you're going to have to explain to them what it means and what area of their body that people should not touch. Don't let people say certain things to you, look at you a certain way. You've got to be able to download into your kids so they are aware of certain things as they're growing up. Yes, I believe certain conversations comes with time and age, but we ought to get to a place when when it's appropriate to talk to your kids, because you don't want to send them out there in a real world to face real issues because you've held something back from them.
Absolutely. So
our next children the anatomical names of their body correctly, none of these flowery names.
Yes.
No, and that's in line with what Suzette said, because there are kids who don't know what their bodies are, or the parts of their body, and they say all sort of interesting things.
Yeah.
And it's confusing to them when they're asked something else.
Yeah.
So you gotta train your children, gotta be open to having some of those conversations. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
The educator part of it that said, please tell them the right thing.
Yeah. And then they don't go to school and saying things that doesn't make sense. So just...
Right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. Sorry.
Okay, so we're going to now talk about leadership, and I'm only going to touch on 2 points. One that was from a viewer, and then a statement that was made. So a viewer asked, how do you communicate that people are leadership or starstruck with their leaders or their managers? How do you communicate that people are starstruck with their leaders or their managers?
I need a drink. Hang on.
Wow, parched. Starstruck.
So, starstruck. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Why don't we define starstruck?
Yeah.
So, starstruck. Giving or receiving from both sides, they were saying, the giver and the receiver, where they are overdoing their actions towards the leadership that they would not do for others.
I think that's the part there. You can't do it for others. Sorry, go ahead. Hyacinth.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's twofold. It's not just the individual doing it to the leader, but it's also the leader consistently receiving it. Like there's an issue there. So boundaries have to be set clearly. So this toxic relationship, mental health, all of it.
But Suzette, I would never speak for Suzette. But I'm not going to speak for you. I don't know what you're going to say, but that toxicity exists if we're starstruck, because it's I want to think on both sides. So the person that's giving, over giving and overdoing it, I think there's got to be a limit. And then the person receiving it not managing all of that too, there's something that can be said on that side too.
Okay.
The reality is we're all flesh and blood. And the Bible says you got to give honor to whom honor is due. But there comes a difference where the difference is, are you giving honor to whom honor is due, or are you idolizing a person, idolizing that leader because of the position that they hold, what they can do, or do you have ulterior motives where you idolize the person thinking, if I'm always around them, try to carry their bag trying to do that maybe I'll get promoted or something. I don't know. But I strongly believe in giving honor to whom honor is due. But when it comes to being starstruck and idolizing, for example, in the church arena where we lead, the only superstar that's in the church is God Himself, Jesus Christ. And that's who we ought to really give our reverence to. And think about it, if I may even bring it home. Right now, the entire world is going through a crisis. We're going through a pandemic. Now, I strongly believe God did not create this COVID-19 pandemic that we're going through, but He obviously allowed it to happen. And I strongly believe that He's also sending a message to the church, because for years we have conducted ourselves and carried ourselves in a certain way. And God is not pleased, because He's the only one that really should be getting our full attention. Cast your cares upon Him. Give Him the worship. We don't give the worship. We honor people in their rightful place. We respect people in their rightful offices. But it's God that gets the glory. He gets the honor. He gets the praise. And oftentimes we forget about that, and we elevate this individual to a place of stardom, where they feel like now we are the superstar, and now we got to be worshipped. So we've got it twisted. And what God did, He had to close the doors of the church, so we're not even hearing their voices anymore. So we can go to God, so He can hear our voices, and we can hear Him speak back to us. I think it's a sad connotation when we are so stuck or struck on a personality as opposed to the God of that personality.
That's right.
That's just my take on the situation.
Yeah.
Truth be told.
Go ahead. Truth be told.
Truth be told.
Yes.
The truth be told, as you said, that's so right. When you are serving, there's a difference. Service is a difference than starstruck, because you're serving it unto God. But starstruck, I believe you're serving it unto man, and there is no comparison to God and man.
And like what Suzette said, we honor people for their position. Honor. So, and you give the respect that's due to the individual in that in that position, versus the worship. So I know your question, Michelle, also talks about management. We're talking about church, but there are people at work or in our workplaces where if the boss comes in, I got you a coffee, or I went and got you a tea today, or, those kind of people, because they're really looking for promotion. They're looking to be noticed by their boss or the leader in the building. And they will trample over, walk all over the person right next to them to bring the coffee or the tea or whatever it is to their manager or their boss for their own namesake. They don't respect their boss for their leadership, for any of those inner qualities. It's really about what can they do for me, and if I do this, I'll be seen and I'll be noticed, and we see that often in workplace environments. So it's not just in church or in the realm of religion, where we do see it. And I think people will often criticize the church for those things. People get criticized, but they never look at the workplace, right? Yeah. What we do at work should also bring glory to God, because I'm a Christian at work too. Exactly. So I can't behave that way at work and then come to church and then criticize individuals who do that. I gotta check myself in both realms.
Right. Excellent. So great points, ladies, and I really appreciate everything that you've brought to the table. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. So our leadership conversation has not gone as long as we could have had, but I will say the saying that Pastor Suzette Gayle shared with us in our conversation prior to the show, and she says, you can't teach beyond your experience, which I think is a very powerful saying. In other words, if you don't have the experience, it's hard for you to teach what it is that the person is going through or how they've been affected. And so I want to conclude tonight, ladies. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you. Thank you to everyone in Facebook Live for joining us. It's been really great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All relationships are important and should be properly respected. The only way that life can function is how well we relate and work with those around us. We are made up of emotions, intelligence, and spirituality that makes us function successfully or not. As the world has come together in unity to be the voice of men and women who have died needlessly, has come together to be the voice of the Black community, has come together for humanity, this is a relationship of a corporate level. We are all in a relationship with one another, whether it's within your home, within a church, within an organization, or within your community, or throughout this world. We are in a relationship. Let us respect each other. My quote from today is not from Michelle Obama, but it's from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Thank you for watching. Have a good night. And don't forget, you have power to birth everything and anything because you are more powerful than you can imagine. See you next week, Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us, Michelle.
Thank you.
Bye. Nice seeing you, Hyacinth.